Welcome to the Prudent Podcast. I'm your host, Tanisha Prelo. We help self-publishers, authors, and writers on their literary journey. In each episode, we will share essential tips and publishing strategies to support your self-publishing success. Whether you're just starting or want to improve your publishing skills, we've got you covered. Let's begin this journey together to success. Welcome to the Prudent Podcast, where we empower self-publishers, authors, and writers on their literary journey. I'm your host, Tanisha Prelo, and today we have an exciting episode lined up for you. Our guest today is Julia Carter. She's the author of Couponing for the Busy Woman. We'll be diving into how she came up with the idea for her book and how you, as a busy woman or a busy man, can take advantage of couponing and some of the strategies that she uses in her own life that helps her to save money on this couponing journey. So first of all, we want to thank you, Julia, for joining the show today, for taking time out just so we can interview you and really learn about even your writing process, your background, your inspiration behind the book, and of course, getting a lot of couponing strategies. So let's kind of start with your background today. Can you tell us a little about yourself and what inspired you to write your book, Couponing for the Busy Woman?
Yes. Thank you, Tan, for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here this morning to share a little bit about me. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas. I'm a mother of 5 children, a wife. I'm currently residing in the Atlanta, Georgia area, where you know where I just recently moved here. But anyways, my couponing journey, I started in about around 2020, just, looking for ways to save money for our household as a one income family, my husband being the one that, working and stuff and me at home with the children. I just prayed and, just sought the Lord about what I could do to help, save money and things like that. And that's when I began to, when he began to show me couponing. So I just began to, do the research and learn how to coupon. And, that's what pretty much jump started my journey. But as far as the book coming along, I was inspired when I moved here to Atlanta by a lot of my fellow brothers and sisters in the in the ministry, just that wanted to learn about couponing and wanting to learn how to save. And, the original idea actually came from, my good friend Tan here to go ahead, put that into a book. And that way, we can help people save money and also, get that out there to others that would like to learn. So that's how the book really came about and was really inspired just by a lot of people wanting to learn and just, instead of having to, do a lot of one-on-one and telling people, I just decided, we just decided to go ahead and put it in a book and give people that tool, to be able to learn and start their journey as well. So that's how the book came into being at that time.
Wow, that's very good to hear. And I do remember, just seeing you post on social media, and I was like, she's giving tips and strategies without even knowing it. And that's something that should definitely be in a book, a course, or something, right? So that we
Yeah.
can inspire others. So what was your personal experience with couponing before you actually wrote the book? I know you shared a little bit here, but I was wondering, did you grow up in a couponing household or did you just discover it later in life? I know you said the Lord had pressed it upon your heart, but I didn't know if you had, if you saw your mother or someone else in your family couponing as well.
No, I didn't grow up in a couponing household. It just came into being, like I said, when I prayed that prayer and for a while, other people that had came into my life, had told me that I needed to start couponing. It'd be like, random strangers and stuff like that. But at that time, I was just like, that seems too tedious. I don't think I want to learn how to do that, and but when the Lord really set me down and I'm really, looking and thinking, how I can help, just really tapping into becoming that help meet, that's when I decided to just go ahead and learn on my own. So, lots of YouTube, lots of hours spent, trying to figure everything out, weeks and, things like that. And that's what really, you know, got me into the book is to save people, time, because it took me a lot of a while, not, I'm going to say months, but it took me a few weeks to actually, be able to go out there and do my first couponing trip, just trying to learn everything, with different videos, different channels and things like that. So everything that I learned, and it took me time to learn, I put it into the book for people so it would jumpstart it faster for them, to be able to, go ahead and start that journey without having to, you know, listen to all these videos and different channels and try to piece together everything. The book is a one-stop shop for you to be able to find out everything you need to know, excuse me, to go ahead and begin that journey.
Wow. And that's what I like when I see people that have a certain expertise or something that they are, essentially an expert at, but you can take your years of learning, of experience, your trials, your triumphs, right, and pack it into a book to share with others. And I think that's really good because it helps them, along that same journey. In your case, couponing, right? So it helps someone else along that same couponing journey, and you can actually fast track them, so they wouldn't have to go through the different learnings that you had to go through. And so that's why I think, definitely taking your expertise, putting it in a book and sharing it with that particular audience is always important. And I think that they will appreciate it because you're providing them with one tool and a resource that can help them, in your case, on a couponing journey. So let's switch a little bit just to talk about your writing process. I know that you were used to sharing when you would go shopping, right? The different discounts and the couponing, but now you had to switch gears a bit, right? And begin to actually write out everything that you've learned along the way, to give those couponing strategies. So my first question around that is, what was the process like for writing this book? And how long did it take you to come from the initial idea to conception of having a finished product for your book?
I would say the writing process was very tedious. Because when you're doing a book like this, you want to make sure that you're breaking it down to the, the elementary level, like to where you know that somebody's beginning. You want to make sure that every detail that you put in there, is able to be understood by a beginner. So it a lot of stuff, I had to change because I'm like, that's kind of, a little too advanced, at this stage, even though the book kind of built on itself as far as, just basic couponing at, Dollar General, which is where I started, doing the 5 off 25. Real simple to get you out there to go into the other stores like Walgreens and CVS and, just building upon it, the book building upon itself as far as teaching you how to use that store money and stuff like that to pay for your transactions or rebate apps, so it kind of took you from the beginner to expertise, so it was very tedious, and it did take, prayer during writing, and a lot of times the Lord say, hey, take that out and put it like this. And it just flowed, as far as my mind being, a little bit more advanced to breaking it down to somebody who's a beginner so they can easily digest it and understand, even to, searching out the, images that we used, the visuals and things like that, just having to really, search for things that, that I could use to give them that visual to see. It was tedious, but from the initial idea to the culmination of the book, it finished writing. It took a couple months, but I made sure to stay on it and get it completed because it's something that I really desire to help people do. Because these times are hard, so as families, you want to see people save money and be able to, have extra money to do what they, want to do. But it was a very tedious task, but I enjoyed it. I mean, once you finish the work and you go back over and read it and you're like, wow, like it wasn't just my mind that did this, but the Lord's hand was definitely in it, for anything that we write or do, unto the Lord, that, He definitely guides us. And when I read it, it's just like you get that joy, like, wow, I really wrote this and it sounds really good, and the Lord was there to assist. I mean, even times I'm driving in the car with my husband, we're going places, I'm in my notes, tapping things that's instantly coming to my mind about the book. So it was a really good journey. It was a really good journey. So I appreciated it.
That's really good. And, one thing you mentioned, which is something I always tell others that are writing, whether it's a blog, a post, a book, right, is to use your tech tools. So I like the fact that you mentioned that while you're in a car with your husband, you can take out your phone and, utilize the notes that's on your phone and actually begin to write. A lot of my books and different things that I've written, sometimes I've written it, while I was in a car, right? Or at the grocery store or at the park, but I'm using my phone to actually write down those notes. So I definitely love to hear that. So can you say that you faced any challenges while you were writing and publishing a book? And if so, can you share some and let us know how did you overcome them?
Yeah, one of the challenges was to, I would say, to really just, stay, committed to writing it. It was a challenge because, I had never done this before. It was definitely me stepping out into a different type of, arena. I'd always been told all my life that I was a good writer, though, but it was just something that I never thought that I would have done, So it was definitely, like I said, the tediousness of it. It kind of, when you kind of get into that overload and you're like, okay, no, keep pushing, keep doing it, and keep going. That part was a bit challenging, as opposed to, you're writing something that's more flowing. It was just like I said, the small details and the things that I had to go into to write it. I would say that was something that I had to overcome, was just, keep pushing, keep going, it's coming together, and just really not allow myself to feel like I was overloading, my brain and stuff. But I definitely overcame it, through prayer and, sticking to it. And really, like I said, just having that desire to want to see people be able to save money, because I always love to help people. Even when I was in Iowa, I would take people, I take a lady with me, taught her how to coupon. She's still going strong today, So it was something that I, just really desired to want to teach people. And I know people really wanted to learn. So that also kept, the drive to keep pushing forward too. As far as everything else, with the publishing and everything, I think everything went smoothly. We got the cover and stuff done, and it was just beautiful. It exceeded my expectations, So as far as that process, it went pretty smoothly. I have a very good publicist.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a pretty good process and a good learning process also. And I was just thinking as you were speaking that there are a lot of people, just like the young lady you mentioned back in your hometown that you taught her how to coupon, that are actually probably needing help. When I talk to people about couponing, even mentioning your book, of course, the first thing that comes to mind or that they will say is, oh, well, I've already learned how to coupon. But they're speaking of couponing from, maybe clipping a paper, um, somewhere along those lines. So, what are some key couponing strategies that you can actually share? Something that's, been impactful for you, and even something that's in your book, right? As far as some impactful couponing strategies, and even keeping in mind for busy women, right? How can they incorporate couponing into their daily routine without feeling overwhelmed? I know that the prices with everything is high and expensive, and we definitely want to save money, especially when it comes to our essential products. So, what are some of those key strategies that you can give busy moms, and some of those strategies from your book that will help them to incorporate couponing?
I would say, pick a day, if you're working as a mom, or, especially if you're working as a mom, you want to take those days that, you have your days off, and, put your, um, let's say, your couponing trip together. But one of the biggest things that I would say is if because putting together a couponing trip is very time consuming. It could take a couple hours just to put together a couponing trip. But what I like to tell people is go ahead and join, couponing groups, Facebook, see what other moms are getting, and see the deals that they have. And a lot of times they'll post the breakdowns of, how they got the deals, how much they paid, what coupons they used. And that can really save you time as far as putting together your couponing trip for that day. I mean, you could go from a couple hours to 10 minutes, just by doing that. So that would also help, but it's also the thing about, if your store doesn't have a certain item that's on the list, you have to be able to regroup right then and there in the store and be able to compensate for that item if you're supposed to reach a certain amount of money to spend at the store, so I definitely say, join some couponing groups. Um, where other moms are couponing. Check out what they have. If you like those deals, if it's something that you need or interested in, read their posts and see, what coupons they used, how much they paid. And that will help jumpstart, your couponing trip and cut down a lot of time. Even as a stay-at-home mom, like myself, it would take me, when I was in Iowa, it would take me a couple hours to go through the coupons, go through the ads, find things that the deals that I wanted to do for my household, because couponing, you just don't want to buy stuff because it's a good deal. If you're not going to use it, you need to buy stuff that you are going to use, you're going to eat, stuff that your household is going to utilize, or that your friends or family utilize. So you just want to be smart about what you're doing. When I first started, I was buying anything. I'm like, hey, that's a good deal. Let me, run out and get that. And I still got stuff in my garage that's looking at me like, hey, so, but I learned like, hey, you don't have to jump on everything, especially if you're not going to use it. The whole idea of couponing and saving is getting stuff that your household uses and needs and saving in that aspect. So, and as far as a strategy from the book, I would say definitely, learn. The biggest thing for me is to learn how to use that store money to pay for your transactions. That's going to maximize your savings the most. We don't want to swipe our bank cards. We don't like doing that. We want to go ahead and allow that store money to pay for our transactions, or even the rebate apps from you buying groceries, and getting money back from your groceries. That's one of the biggest things about couponing that I love, is the ability to use the store money to pay for your transactions, because then you're maximizing savings big time in that aspect. So that's the biggest thing that I would tell people to learn, which it took me a while to learn. I had no idea about that for a while after I was couponing, because it wasn't just available out there. People didn't even know that you could use Walgreens cash to pay for your transactions, even though it says you need to spend $20, $30, before you can get your Walgreens cash back. People didn't know that you can still pay with store money and get that back. They're always told in the videos, you can't use Walgreens cash to pay for this. Don't use Walgreens cash to pay for this. But the experts have figured out a way to be able to use that Walgreens cash to pay for your transactions and still get your Walgreens cash back. So that is the biggest thing that it takes a little time to understand. It took a while for it to click for me. I messed up a couple times, but once you get the hang of that, you're in there. You're good to go.
Wow, that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, which actually leads to my next question I was thinking about. So, as you talk about the store cash, are there any tools, apps, or resources that you normally recommend for someone that's just getting started with couponing?
Yes, the two main apps that I use and a lot of people use would be Ibotta and Fetch. Ibotta, you're going to get cash back for stuff that you're buying at all types of stores. So if you go to Walmart, you're buying groceries on there, they'll have, like dollar back on this product, this much on this product. So when you start using those apps and you're getting cash back on products that you're buying and that you're shopping for, you actually can pull that money and use that for your couponing trips. So that's a big thing that I like to do. I also like to use, like I said, Fetch, scan your receipt when you're done, and it gives you points that you could turn into gift cards, and you can take those and use those. I loved doing that at CVS. CVS was my favorite store because you can get $5, as low as $5 and a gift card at CVS, and that's a big deal with couponing. I tell people $20. My husband, hey, he said, hey, I got $50 I can give you. You could take. That's a lot of money to coupon with. You can do a lot of damage with $50. Couponing. So even a $5 gift card at CVS, that goes a long way. So I would definitely say Ibotta and Fetch are the two apps that you can utilize to make money back and start using that money on your transactions. Once again, we're not swiping our bank cards because we're already going grocery shopping. We've got our groceries, as far as food products, and you're getting money back for that. So that's another, saving aspect. And, when I used to do Ibotta and get money back from the food, I'm usually getting 50% back on what I spent on groceries, and my husband would be shocked, like, wow, you got all of this for, $40, $20, and then I'm taking that money that I got back and I'm using that to go coupon with. So I would definitely say those two apps right there are really good to utilize. There's lots of other ones, Shopkick, things like that you get points just for walking into the store, just for scanning items. Like you get points and you can turn those into gift cards. So that's another good one too, to use. So as you get in there and you start getting familiar with the rebate apps, you'll have different avenues that you're pulling, money back, for items that you're purchasing, and things like that, and bonuses. So they give you bonuses on top of that. So in addition to, you getting money back for what you buy, you also get a bonus for purchasing a specific amount of those items. So it's definitely good to utilize those because, once again, that's maximizing your savings.
Wow. And as you were speaking, I actually grabbed my phone. I have an Android and I downloaded those two apps. Obviously, I totally missed that as you've been teaching, couponing all this time, even in your book. So, yeah, I found the Ibotta app in Fetch. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. I like a good tool and a resource, and anything that can help me save money, I'm definitely all in. So with this, I mean, you've offered, first of all, some really good resources and tools and advice and just different things like that. So I definitely want to get your final thoughts, and even, of course, ask how can our audience get in touch with you personally. If you have any coaching programs coming up, any type of webinars, or any way for them to get in touch with you. But before we do that, can you just kind of share your final thoughts as to how couponing has basically impacted your own life financially, even with any examples that you may have? And then just a message or advice that you would like to give to women who feel intimidated by the idea of couponing or think that it's too time consuming.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing for me was the diapers. And I know that gets all moms and mothers that have little ones, that gets their attention. I saved over $1,000 in purchasing diapers, and we're talking, the name brand ones that we all like. Um, Over $1,000. CVS, couponing at CVS is where I did a lot of my diapers. That's mainly, what I did at CVS was diapers. They always had amazing diaper deals. I'm talking, literally free. And the thing about CVS is that they'll show you how much money you have saved at their store. So when I had looked at my account, I knew that that was from diapers because that's pretty much all I did at CVS was diapers. And so over $1,000 on diapers, and diapers are expensive. And so that was one of my biggest saves. And I would say it's really impacted our household because, like I said, tell people, you become the store, so it's like you're showering or you're doing laundry or something like that. You're running out of detergent, and hey, you're like, hey, just go out, to the garage and get me, you know what I'm saying, a thing of detergent. So you're not running to the store constantly when stuff is running out, because you essentially become the store by stockpiling the things that you buy, being able to help others, and things like that. And during the COVID time. I mean, when I was in Iowa, I helped so many people by throwing bundles together. I had tissue stacked to the ceiling. So by that, I was able to help people because we know tissue was gone. It was, like I said in my book, it was as rare as gold, you know. So the ability to help people with tissue and still not run out for my household was a blessing. As I said in the book, I got to my last pack of tissue when they started repacking the shelves. So the ability to just, not hoard for yourself, you want to think of others and you want to think of how you can, how God can use it. Because a lot of times I would be like, well, I need to slow down. But the Lord would start showing me how I can use this stockpile to help others, and at the same time still have enough for my household. So it's always about serving others in everything that we do. But that was my biggest save, and it's really impacted our household because once my husband really seen the effect that couponing had on our household, he didn't want to pay full price for nothing. I think I took a break and he realized, he was like, "Hey, I think you need to go back out and start couponing again," because he had to pay full price for those diapers one day, and he was like, "No, no, I need you to throw it." So ever since then, he's been on me about couponing. Hey, you need to put together a deal. We're running out of dish soap or whatever it may be. And I'm able to produce those deals right there on the spot. So I would definitely say that it's impacted our household greatly. We've saved thousands of dollars. I calculate how much everything would have cost me full price. You're looking at over $100, for your weekly necessities. Chop that down to about $20. I mean, and then on top of that, you're getting more, so you don't have to shop every week for your body washes and things like that. You're getting more. You're doubling up on your products, so that way, you don't have to continuously shop and feel like, well, I got to put this money aside to we need this. You already have what you need. So it's definitely impacted our house a lot as far as saving. So
Wow.
yeah.
And I'm that weekly shopper, and that's something that my husband gets on me about. He's like, we shouldn't spend, $100 per week, or you shouldn't always have to run to the store. You should essentially be able to stock up on what we need. So, look, I feel like I need one-on-one lessons from you in that place with, body wash, just different, like, our household essentials. And of course, there's the option for me to go to Sam's and buy in bulk, but I feel like it still costs a lot and I can actually save more if I take time out to implement some of your strategies. So, can you share any upcoming projects or plans that you're working on related to couponing or writing? Like, what's next in your journey for you?
Yes, I am finishing up the couponing planner that aids the book. So the thing about this couponing planner is it's going to have the three sections for couponing at Dollar General, Walgreens, and CVS. It's basically going to be your shopping list. So I see a lot of couponers that you're writing down, and a lot of people, they write down their shopping list and and things like that. And but this is going to be able to help you, as like Walgreens, like I said, the more difficult store, you'll have the section to be able to write down what rewards you're supposed to get back. Really, really break that list down for you so everything's right there. Because at times when you go couponing and you have a list, you could be standing in the store writing stuff down, calculating because you like I said, you have to substitute an item or things like that. But when you have this list, it will put that in front of you so you'll know exactly how much your total is supposed to be, what rewards you're going to use. There'll be no confusion. It will really cut down your time in the store as well. No confusion about what you're supposed to get back as far as your rewards. Everything will be right there written down in front of you. So that's going to aid the book. I got one more page to work on that I'm finishing, and then it's just about rolling that out. And as far as I want to go ahead and start some sort of, recordings in some type of way. I'm still, seeking the Lord on how to really bring that together. But I've been talking to my husband a lot, and he's like, you need to, start recording, yourself and make it into, a sort of, what do you want to call it? Somewhere where they can, go and see and learn, that could be a teaching aid to them. So I'm seeking the Lord on how to put that together and really go about that and navigate that. So that's another thing that's coming up, so people can really, have that to see. Because, I like to watch videos and see what people are doing. And I know that's, common in our day and age with technology, is just to really have those videos to see what people are doing, and how they're doing it. So that's another thing that's coming up. So, yeah, that's what we have.
That's really good, Julia. And Jen, just one last question. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, or if they, wanted to have one-on-one time or to contact you about couponing strategies, what's a good way to get in touch with you?
We have my email, which is oneelectcouponer@gmail. And we also have our Facebook group, Couponing for the Busy Woman. So if you would like to contact me on there, I'm still, establishing, getting the website fully functionable. So until then, but those are the two ways to contact me for now. Once we get the website, the landing page and everything, going, I will post that in the group so people will have that way to access me as well.
Thank you, Julia. Well, I definitely want to thank you so much for sharing your insights and tips today. And it's pretty clear that couponing for the busy woman is a must-read for anyone looking to save money without spending too much time. You can purchase your copy today on rempublish.com. It's REMPUBLISH.com. Or you can also find it on Amazon. We thank you all for just tuning in and listening. And we want you all to be able to follow the work that Julia is doing. It's a great work when it comes to couponing. If anyone has any questions, remember, you can find her in her Facebook group, which is the Couponing for the Busy Woman. And can you say your email address one more time, Julia?
It's oneelect, ONEELECT, couponer@gmail.com.
oneelectcouponer@gmail.com. Thank you all for listening to the Prudent Podcast today. We hope that you received some gems and insights, and we hope to talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Prudent Podcast. We hope today's episode will help with your self-publishing journey. Remember to rate and subscribe, and also review our podcast to stay updated with the latest in digital and print publishing. To stay in contact with us, follow us on social media and visit our website, remnantmedservice.com. This will give you more resources and support on your literary journey. Thank you, and keep writing.